Hi, welcome to Outsmart Your Guitar. I'm glad you could drop by to see what we're all about. Today, we're going to be having a Geoff Talk. A Geoff Talk is basically where I, Geoff, talk to you, the avid listener, on a topic of interest. Today, that topic is finding your own voice or your own sound, particularly when you're playing lead guitar. Now, this does bubble over into your rhythm playing as well. All right, so let's just get right to it. But wait, press that red button down there in the corner and you'll be subscribed to Outsmart Your Guitar. Ring the notification bell and you'll be informed when new content is posted, which is usually around once a week or so. For an expanded version of this particular lesson, or episode, if you want to call it that, go on over to patreon.com, Outsmart Your Guitar, and subscribe at one of two levels. And you will therefore also become a patron and help me in my continued efforts to provide you with high quality lesson material to help you learn, play, and grow to be the guitar player you desire to be, to play the music you love. All right? Also, if you look down in the description box below, you'll see a little link over to my Pay Me account where you can leave me a tip to keep me in coffee if you're so inclined. I'd appreciate that. All right, ready to go? Let's get to it. Finding your voice, your sound, we call it your signature sound. Like Eric Johnson has his signature sound. Mark Knopfler has his signature sound. Lowell George has his signature sound. Duane Allman had his sound. All these guitar players had their sound, and you could recognize it. David Gilmour, right? One of the most recognized lead guitar sounds in rock and roll. This is what we're talking about. These guys did not arrive at this sound overnight. Listen to early Pink Floyd. You hear David Gilmour, and you listen to him in The Wall, where his sound truly came into focus. And you see, well, that's a lot of years from the late 60s to the late 70s. That's a long time to get to that place. Yeah, but he had a signature sound even on Dark Side of the Moon. It just wasn't fully developed, but it was beginning to take shape. And this is what I want you to understand. Time is the thing that is going to bring this about. Now, I've broken this down into multiple segments, of which in each segment I'm going to discuss and even demonstrate in some cases specific things you need to be aware of and work on in order for you to hasten the arrival of attaining your signature sound, your voice. All right? Myself, to get my first truly unique voice, it took me about, 8 years of playing electric guitar. I had played electric guitar or acoustic guitar for about 3-4 years previous to that. But then when I picked up electric guitar, well, it was a whole new animal, right? But it took me about 8 years going through a lot of different gear to help refine my sound and a lot of play time to get to that place. And I'm going to discuss all of this, all right? So rather than just kind of blather on here, let's get to the meaty stuff that you need, all right? Technique is at the heart of developing your signature sound, the thing that is unique to you. Because the way you play things, the way you fret them matters. And this is going to affect how you sound. We're talking about how you play chords and even strumming, right? We're talking about how you fret single notes when you're playing scales and playing lead parts. We're talking about hammer-ons and pull-offs. Are you using the techniques correctly to get the maximum benefit from a hammer-on and from a pull-off? And then bending strings. Bending strings is a big deal, all right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over each of these things one at a time and talk a little bit about them, all right? Let's talk about chords. Let's start with the first position chords. Fretting chords is not hard. Getting them to sound really nice every time, that takes practice. So let's start with the C chord. If I can fret it. Now you hear all 5 notes. And that's important. When you want to finger pick, that everything is free and clear. So what I want you to notice is my 3rd finger is butted into the 6th string because I'm not using it. My 2nd finger is butted into the 5th string because I'm playing on the 3rd fret above where the 2nd finger is butted into it at the 2nd fret. So we're free and clear there. And the reason I'm butted into the 5th string here is so that the back of the finger, this part of the finger, isn't touching the 3rd string. So it rings clear. Now, the 1st finger, you'll notice it's very close to, but not touching, the 3rd string, and standing straight up and down so that the high E will come out and ring clean. The B7, similar things going on. On the 2nd fret of the 5th string, I'm butted into the 6th string because it's not being used, and this is insurance. Now, the reason I'm butted into the 6th string is because I'm playing a note here on the 4th string, a fret back at the 1st fret. Now, you'll notice I'm butted right into that just out of habit, even though I'm playing the 3rd string at the 2nd fret. And you'll notice I'm all but touching the 4th string with my 3rd finger because I want the back of my finger to not be touching the 2nd string, right? 2nd string is open, and that's a B, and we're playing a B7, so, whoops, there are my roots, right? So it's these kinds of things you have to pay attention to with open chords. Now, bar chords, I'm just going to touch on 7th chords for a moment, basically dominant 7th in particular. When you're playing an A7, for example, on the 6th string root, your flat 7 is here. It's covered by your 1st finger. If you don't have it playing right, all you have is an A major. But we want that dominant 7. So you've got to flatten this joint. Now, you'll notice this joint is flat, this joint is just slightly bent. And when we go to the 5th string, same thing, 5th string root, this joint is flat, this is only slightly bent, not a lot, just a tiny bit. This helps you to be able to flatten down that 1st joint. And when you come over to the 5th string, the D7, and you have your flat 7 on the 5th fret of the 3rd string, whoops, you can hear it. Now, you can use your 2nd finger to lay on top of that to further reinforce that flat 7. All right, now, you heard something a second ago. Notice what's going on here. This is why that happens. And you don't press harder to get rid of it, that won't. You move it just a tiny bit, and it works. Stand this up so that it's not touching the third string because that's your flat 7 tone. Same rule applies, all but touching the 5th string, but you need to not because that's sounding. Same thing here with the little finger on the 2nd string. You can't touch the 3rd string and you can't touch the 1st string because those are all part of the sound of the chord, right? Now, back to the 6th string, 7th chord. Same idea applies here. If you're back here against the fret, you need to pull it away so you get that 5 tone ringing out real nice. Okay? So these are a couple things you need to really weigh and consider when you're talking about first position chords and when you're talking about fretting barred chords or fully fretted chords, right? Even if you're playing jazz chords, right? You still need to use the same rules as anybody else, right? It matters to hear everything clean and clear. So pause the video and take a little time and study your fretting technique where chords are concerned. Let's talk about fretting single notes now. Single note fretting is important. You have to be right behind the fret, no matter where you are. And this is important whether you're playing single note lines as part of a rhythm section or soloing, that your fingers have to be right behind the fret. With rare exception. Now, this applies most importantly when you're down here in the lower portions of the fretboard. When you're up here, notice my finger covers a lot of the space between the frets, so it's not quite as critical that you be right behind the fret, because when you put your finger there, you're pretty much right behind the fret as it is. And so it's not as critical here as it is here. Right? If you're back here, you can hear some buzzing going on there, and that's not what you want, right? Now, here is another reason why you want to be right behind the fret when you're playing single note runs, okay? And here it is. When you're playing vibrato, now, if you play at the back of the fret, you hear that kind of stuff going on. And that's what you want to eliminate, these kind of artifacts, if you want to call them that. If you're right behind the fret, you're not going to have that issue. Right? Okay. So this is part of why you want to be very clear on fretting single notes and getting yourself playing right. And you do this through practicing scales. The discipline in practicing scales is it helps you learn to apply techniques in such a way that it will help you play better. When you are playing your notes right behind the fret, you know, your fingers are landing right behind the fret, you don't have to worry about the quality of the sound of the notes. So that when you start playing using that scale, the quality of the notes is going to be very impressive. And here's part of the other reason. You're developing and trying to find your own voice, your own sound. These techniques that I'm talking about all through this lesson are part and parcel to helping you achieve that. Poor fretting techniques, whether for chords or single notes, is going to impact the quality of the sound you produce and impede finding your own voice. All right? So pause the video and go through a couple of scales and see how you do, and pay attention to where your fingers are being placed. It matters. All right? All right, let's look at the hammer-ons and pull-offs. We'll start with hammer-ons. Basically, we're on the 3rd string of the 5th and 7th fret, okay? First finger on 5th, third finger on 7th. So a proper hammer-on, if you will, you play the note on the 5th fret and slam your finger into the 7th fret. Okay? Now you can do it with your 3rd finger there or your 4th finger. So here's the exercise. Now you want to mimic that through hammer-ons. Play, hammer. Do use the metronome to help you with this. It matters to get these proper, because when you're playing it faster, you want it to work smooth and flowing. That matters. Okay, so that's the basis of a hammer-on. Play, slam. The better your calluses, the better that's going to sound when you slam into the string. Right? Okay. Now, pull-offs. It's kind of the opposite. We're going to start on the 7th fret and pull off to the 5th fret. Now, the object here is you play the first note at 7. Your first finger has to be pretty much ready to go by having pressure on the 5th fret. Now, the technique is to pull down and away. So down and away. Let me turn the side here and you'll get a better sense of it. Watch. Now the same thing with the 4th finger on the 2nd string and the 1st string. Notice I'm playing, pulling down and away. Right? Okay? So here's the exercise. Pick, pull off. Pick, pull off. Again, use the metronome and practice this. Now, the other exercise you can do is pick up and pick down. Hammer up, pull off. I don't recommend you going that fast until you're really good at what you're doing. Now, you can also do 1st and 2nd finger hammer-ons, so kind of a blues thing. Or you can do a pull-off. It's up to you how you employ this. Now, again, you want to be right up against the fret, right behind it, no matter what you're doing. That gives you your maximum note benefit. Again, pay attention. Your calluses matter, so play more and your hammer-ons and pull-offs will sound better because of it. All right? So, pause the video and practice this for a little while and get it clear and well understood and get your technique improved. Bending strings is something that guitar players struggle with probably longer than a lot of other techniques, simply because it is so rubbery. I guess I'll use that word. You're bending up one step is often the most common bend. So if we're in the key of A, I'm on the third string at 7. That's my starting place, and I want to bend up to the note at 9. So I'm bending from a D to an E. Well, the E is also here. The object is to be able to bend up to that note at will every time. That's the idea. And you can check it there or there. Right? And if you hit it within a couple of cents, you're in good shape. If you can dial it right in, then you're really on the money. Now, a proper bend, my fingers, you'll notice it is actually, I don't know, 20, 30 degree angle. Now, I want to show you the crease. Notice where the crease is with regard to my fingers. Okay, we'll get rid of that one. It's not here on the flat, right? It's not right here. It's actually close to the tip, but not straight up and down on the tip. And that's the object, because when you do it on the flat, like this, that's what's going to happen. It's going to slip out from under. But if you do it right on the tip, you've got your fingers standing straight up and down. You can do that, but that's very uncomfortable, right? So you find that sweet spot just off the tip. Notice we've got the thumb here hanging over the top of the fretboard so that you create that vice. You're squeezing into your thumb. And that gives you something to push against, because if you do it this way, you're going to raise the neck, and that's going to work against your ability to move. Now, I've got really strong fingers, so I can do this. But I don't, because I want to be precise and know exactly how much pressure to put on that string. And the same thing applies for the second and first string. Now, the tension of the third string isn't as high as the tension of the second string. The tension of the second string isn't as high as the tension on the first string. So as you move from third to second and second to first, the amount of pressure you need to apply increases. So we're going from here in A, the 8th fret on the second string, up to 10. So the same thing is going on. You'll notice my fingers are at this angle here, and when I rotate over, you'll notice the angle has changed, but I don't lay the finger down. I still have it slightly up as before. And then I have my second finger, as here, also pressure on the string to make it easier. One finger bend, I don't have the strength, but two fingers, absolutely. Move over, same two fingers. Right? So you get that note every time. And the same thing on the first string. You just keep practicing it until you're able to do it. And this is something that's going to take time. Remember, there's no muscles in your fingers. Your muscles are here. So you're going to have to develop those muscles to be finely honed and able to help you. Whoops. And that's a big deal, to be able to play and get that expression. This is all part and parcel to helping you find and develop your voice, your sound. Technique matters. Okay, now let's talk about half-step bends. A half-step bend is basically just a half step, literally. So you're just bending up one fret. Get to that three tone. Like that. Now, there's another thing called a step and a half bend, right? So you're going to bend up one step and a half. So we're going to go up to this note. This is an F. So you can learn to control it. Right? And the same thing here. Get up there. And you can do it here. Oof. Okay, now let's try a full two-step bend. So half step, full step, step and a half, two-step bends. Now, if you're using super slinkies like 8s and 9s down here, you can probably get a 2.5 to 3-step bend if you really went for it. But this should give you plenty to work on. So I want you to focus on getting those things working. Now, here's an exercise you can do. It works on both bends here, here, and here. So that is a different one. But basically what you do is you start here, and we're going to play, whoops. We're going to play the E major scale. Now, the object is to play this at the same time you play this, but keep it stationary and bend this up to this note. Whoops. Until it smooths out. You get rid of those wah, 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 wah. Those are called beats. Get rid of the beats. And then move up 2. Move up 2. Move up 1. Move over to the 7th fret. Whoops. Up 2. Move up 2. Up 1. Now, my fingernails are getting in the way, but the object is get it to smooth out. So you get rid of those beats. And that's a great little exercise in control. And you go slow. So you can hear the slowing down of the beats and hear when it hits that clarity, right? It'll just suddenly clear up like blue skies. Okay? So practice that for a while, and then really focus on your technique. Focus on the physicality of what you're doing, because that matters as much as anything. All right? Good. As you can see in just this one segment, there's a lot to take into consideration, a lot of things you need to focus on. It is the focus on these details that gets you where you want to go. And in getting where you want to go is developing your own sound, something uniquely you that sounds good. And when you sound good, you're going to want to play even more. So you take care of these little details of improving your techniques. Everything comes under the microscope, right? And that's what you have to do to get to that place of developing your own sound. Be willing to examine everything and recognize and be honest with yourself the things that aren't working and doing the things necessary to make them work and work well. All right? So, like I said, the rest of this is on patreon.com, Outsmart Your Guitar. Subscribe at one of the two levels, and you will get the rest of the story where this is concerned to help you fully understand all the things that are important in helping you develop the sound that you're going after, which is uniquely you. All right? Otherwise, there are more lessons for you. We'll see you there.